Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma, bringing you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity. And today, we're going to have some conversation later on in the program. But let's tell you that there's a build-up to what we'll call D-Day's Eve. Similarly, Fubara, the suspended governor of Rivers State, his deputy, the Professor Ondo, and members of the State House of Assembly are expected to be returned to return the democratic structure of the state back to what it was before the call for that state of emergency. And, of course, the sole administrator will be leaving. Perhaps the president is also back in the country for that, as we don't know. But that is what is expected to happen as far as tomorrow is concerned. So all eyes are actually on River State. In fact, some people have called it hopes and mixed reactions and reviews as far as this conversation around the whole conundrum around the state of emergency and the, issues that have followed that state of emergency and which you're quite familiar with. So a lot of attention will be on River State. But before all of that, let's tell you what is playing out in the courts. And this has to do with the Supreme Court of Nigeria dismissed the appeals filed by the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Agbola Ajayi, following his formal withdrawal of his appeal. That's the politics of Ondo State. Explaining his decision, the PDP candidate said he withdrew the case after due consultation with members of his party. He extended his heartfelt wishes to Governor Yedatiwa and pledged to continue working towards the development of the state. The five-member panel, led by Justice Iyan Okoro, also dismissed the appeals of the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Mr. Bamidele Akingboye, and his counterpart, Mr. Ogunfeyimi Kolawole, as of the Allied People's Movement in the election. The governor, who was present in court, has also spoken about this particular development. So good days for Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa, as literally the many persons who are challenging his mandate as far as the election in Ondo is concerned, and the primary, which is that's not the primary rather, the key contenders, the PDP, People's Democratic Party, have now formally withdrawn their case at the Supreme Court. So that's as far as the politics of Ondo. That story just coming in, so we had to bring you up to speed with what's playing out at the Supreme Court. But we can also tell you that the president is back in the country following his work vacation, which he spent in France. He was received at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by a delegation led by the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, the chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, the governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and others. The president departed for France on September the 4th to spend part of his annual holiday and was initially scheduled to divide the period between France and the United Kingdom. According to a statement by his special advisor on strategy and information, Mr. Bayo Nanuga, the president had last week in France held a private luncheon with the French president, President Emmanuel Macron, where both leaders had reviewed key areas of cooperation between Nigeria and France and agreed to deepen relationship. All right, President Tinubu returning to the country after his holidays. But let's talk about what we were witnessing in court, where the Department of State Services, DSS, has filed a 5-count charge at the Federal High Court against the presidential candidate, or former presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Mr. Omoyele Sowore. The prosecuting agency listed X Corporation, formerly Twitter, and Meta Incorporated, owners of Facebook, as defendants in this case. The DSS had on Monday, September the 8th, handed Mr. Sowore a 1-week ultimatum to delete what he described as false, malicious, and inciting social media posts about President Bola Tinubu. The ultimatum expired on Monday without Mr. Sowore deleting the post, while the social media company's X Corporation and Meta Incorporated, who own X and Facebook, failed to oblige a demand by the DSS to delete Mr. Sowore's account. The charges were filed on behalf of the DSS and the Nigerian government by Director of Public Prosecution at the Federal Ministry of Justice, Mr. Mohammed Abubakar, as well as other lawyers for the DSS. But that will not be all. Mr. Sowore has countersued the DSS. That is Department of State Services. Mr. Sowore also joined Meta, owners of Facebook, and X Corporation, formerly Twitter, in the lawsuit filed by the Federal High Court, Abuja, challenging what he described as unconstitutional censorship of his social media accounts. In the suit filed on his behalf by his lawyer, Mr. Sowore asked the court to restrain the DSS from directing the global social media platforms to delete his posts, including the one in which he referred to the president as a criminal. The suit seeks declaration that the DSS has no legal authority to censor Nigerians on social media, that Meta and X must not allow their platforms to be used as tools of repression, and that Sowore's fights and those of other Nigerians be fully protected against unlawful interference. So that can clearly tell you that interesting days lie ahead as far as the drama between the DSS and Sowore is concerned. But this is not the first time. But let's see how the courts will give interpretation to all that has been presented before them. Let's tell you also that the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution believes weak and lack of good governance are major drivers of violence across communities in Nigeria. The Director General of the Institute, Dr. Joseph Ochogu, stated this in Abuja at an event to mark the 2025 International Day of Peace and the Institute's 25th anniversary. Now, findings from the Institute's Strategic Conflict Assessment show that where local government are absent or weak, communities become easy targets of violent groups. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, filed in the report.
September 21 is observed globally as the International Day of Peace, a United Nations initiative to strengthen the ideas of peace aimed at ending conflict. This year's commemoration is under the theme, Act Now for a Peaceful World. In Nigeria, the day holds special significance as the country continues to grapple with violence, from herder-farmer conflicts to banditry and communal clashes, which has resulted in the death of thousands of people. To curb the violence, government measures include military operations, dialogue mechanisms, and the Supreme Court's judgment enforcing local government autonomy. Experts say these actions need strong local structures to succeed. As the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution marks 25 years, it reaffirms its role in policy research, conflict assessment, and interventions. The anniversary event in Abuja attracted government officials, civil society, partners, and the media.
Our early warning systems and rapid response mechanisms have helped prevent the escalation of numerous potential conflicts, saving countless lives and preserving community harmony. Notable interventions include our work in farmer-herder conflict across the Middle Belt, electoral violence prevention in multiple election cycles, de-escalation of violent conflicts in Northeast and Northwest zones, mediatory interventions in conflicts, communal conflicts, and religious and ethnic tensions in various parts of the Nigerian states.
He also stressed that in the absence of strong local government, federal and state efforts to tackle insecurity and drive development appears to be a mirage.
If local governments are not working, there is little or nothing much that the federal government and the state government can do to resolve the communal contradictions and complexities of existence of human beings at the respective community level. And that is why I will use that occasion, this particular occasion again, to call that we must allow local governments to work in Nigeria, because that is the front line where people connect with and people meet. So we must empower local government to be able to deliver, because good governance itself is conflict prevention.
As the world commemorates the International Day of Peace, the message from IPCR is clear. Lasting peace begins at the grassroots with strong local government and active citizen engagement. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
All right, let's get to the conversation. I'll be joined by two gentlemen, but let's start with the one that has already joined us, Mr. Oscar Imiade. He's Executive Director, South Youth Initiative, and also a public affairs analyst. Mr. Imiade, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, and good afternoon to Rivers people. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
So we're counting down. It's a question of hours now to, what will happen tomorrow. We're not sure how he will be reinstated, whether it's going to be a declaration. Since there's nothing in the Constitution that guarantees, that shows governors can be suspended or House of Assembly members. So we don't know whether the president is going to give a broadcast, going to do a speech, or we don't know all of that. But what is expected tomorrow is that the governor is expected back in office. How do you want to characterize what we have witnessed in the last 6 months before we talk about the future?
In the first place, we want to sincerely express our disappointment, displeasure, and it's a very disheartening situation that we experience here in Rivers State. For complete 6 months that the state of emergency was declared in Rivers State, the Rivers people have not been in peace. Rivers State has never been happy. Nothing has been moving in Rivers State. The state has remained stagnated. All the projects that actually started during the period of the executive governor of Rivers State, Mayor Fubara, all the projects was kept on hold. All project was put on hold. The link road that was declared with how many 100 billion was also put on hold. The State House Assembly that we expected that would have been completed was put on hold. The Songhai farm that was visited by the suspended governor was also put on hold. Everything was put on hold. What we saw was that despite the Supreme Court restriction for the fund in Rivers State, resources of Rivers State, the state sole administrator still went ahead to spend Rivers State money. A whooping sum of 400 and something billion was declared for the complete 6 months, which actually would have impacted so much on the life of Rivers citizens, which actually would have been a major plus for the life of Rivers State governance. But unfortunately, the whooping sum of 400 billion that was declared for the state of emergency, as we speak, there is nothing to show for it. It's quite disheartening that we find ourselves in this kind of sympathetic situation. It has never happened before in the history of Rivers State. And I also want to call on those perpetrators, those that actually orchestrated this political tussle to also learn their lesson. Because at this point, we have nothing that we can say we benefited from the state of emergency. Rather, what we can count is continual losses upon losses and losses. Other states are doing better. The Lagos state that we are supposed to be competing with, Akwa Ibom state is now a little bit or more higher ahead of Rivers State in terms of governance. But here, Rivers State is actually going backward on a daily basis. The Rivers State state of emergency that was declared on the 18th of March, 2025, actually is the worst situation that has ever happened to Rivers people. And I believe and I pray that no state in the 36 states of Nigeria could ever to pray for a state or a situation like this. We are enjoying a democratic system of government. We have a governor that was actually concerned about the governance. We have a governor that was actually going about trying to see how he can impact on the life of Rivers people. We have the governor that was going around to see how he can be able to make the 23 local government area in Rivers State benefit from his administration. That's what we are experiencing until this political tussle actually came in. Ever since the state sole administrator came in, as the sole administrator, Mr. Ibas, nothing to show, nothing. All we keep hearing is rumor, news upon fake news upon fake news. He kept going ahead to pay a visit. He actually went ahead to pay a visit to the Songhai farm and promising Rivers people that was going to do something about it. All he did, nothing. Ibas did nothing about the visit he went to or the Songhai farm where he visited. He did nothing. Right, nothing came out of it. He actually went further to pay a visit to the state of the state secretariat with a plan or with the promises that was going to innovate the state secretariat. Up till now, nothing came out from it. That's just recently because he actually was seeking for an extension of tenure or an extension of 3 months. He went further to pay a visit to the State House of Assembly that is under renovation order, that is under construction, and was also approved by the suspended governor. Up till now, nothing to show that Ibas has actually done anything. No project in the state, even when there were a state local government.
If I may come in, Mr. Miade, my apologies. Let me bring in Mr. Keminudin, who is a legal practitioner. Mr. Keminudin, we've been on this for as long as it has lasted. It's a very divisive issue from the legalese. And that is one for the books. What has happened in Rivers State is one for the books. State of emergency, suspended elected officials, conducting the local government election under emergency situation, issues around the local government there are so many. It's a conundrum of literal absurdity for the books. But this is where everyone has found themselves. The players, the people who orchestrated this because they couldn't put their acts together have now said, we have found peace. This is the way to go. Help us work out what you see in the books of the law.
Well, thank you very much for having me. In the books of the law, a state of emergency that goes to the extent of suspending an elected governor is not within the contemplation of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we must put it clearly that the decision of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, of the House of Representatives, and of the presidency to suspend an executive governor, an elected governor.
Yeah, Governor, we'll reestablish connection with you. We're making some points, but apparently the network is not allowing you to, just the network is distorting your words. But we'll try to sort that out and I'll come back for your take, because we brought you in so that we get a look at what the law says and from your own point of view as far as, because we're also expecting the Supreme Court should have sat and adjudicated over this once and for all. But let me come to you, Ms. Emiade. The dramatis personae, which was the central point of the conundrum, because the whole idea when it comes to state of emergency in any state, according to Section 305, is supposed to be the state governor in collaboration with the House of Assembly who approach the president to say, this is beyond us, help us sort this out. But the argument of the people who support the president's action is to the fact that the dramatis personae themselves are the orchestrators of the problem. Now they say they've reconciled. And yes, on Wike and his political godson and everybody around that situation. What future do you see? Is this peace at last, or we're working on a fragile peace?
As much as I want to sincerely appreciate the fact that they say peace have returned to Rivers State, as much as I sincerely want to approve or accept the fact that Rivers State has to move forward, the void of political instability and political torso in the state, as much as Rivers people have been clamoring for democracy to be restored in Rivers State, I sincerely want to say that I question the organization I represent, South Youth Initiative and Coalition of Rivers State Youth Bodies in Rivers State. We sincerely want to question the legitimacy or the genuineness of the peace that has been taking place or that has been called upon, because we still feel that, Mr. President, actually thank you for your return back to Nigeria, but if Mr. President must actually recall, Mr. President should also recall that he has actually not been fair to the people of Rivers State. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be on notice that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has not been fair to the people of Rivers State. I said this because this is actually seen as a federal government interference to the political situation in Rivers State. Rather, it ought to be seen as a federal government creating harmony in the Rivers State, but rather it was seen as federal government interference. We also want to go further to say that in the view of all this, why I still want to question the genuineness of the peace reconciliation is because as at today, the state store administrator, IBAS, is still going ahead to appoint a governing council of different institutions. What is the rationale behind all of this? Why is he in a hurry to appoint all governing council board before the handing over? They've conducted local government election. You've done everything, and you're expecting the governor to come and take over. And how is it supposed to be? How is it working? It's so disheartening. And so it questions the legitimacy of the genuineness of this peace reconciliation. As we speak today, the state store administrator, Mr. Ibas, have just inaugurated the Captain Elechi Amadi Polytechnic Governing Council. And you are expecting the governor to be reinstated tomorrow. Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we want to ask you, is this actually fair for the people of Rivers State? This is totally unfair. This is totally
Mr. Oscar, let me come in here. You know, the argument would be the president tried to intervene one time and they said, oh, you know that 8-point resolution that was seen as being skewed against the governor that metamorphosed into all of this before he took his action. And of course, the issue of the sole administrator, there's nothing like that in our constitution, as Mr. Mr. Kemini was trying to say, which is why I want to go back to him to give us the legalese. Mr. Kemini, in addition to your characterization of the legalese around this, all of the actions taken on that IBAS, will they stand?
Well, and that is why we want Mr.
No,
President.
Mr.
So
Oscar,
immediately,
just a moment. Oscar, that is actually for Mr. Kemini, except he's not ready because we're trying to get him back to join the conversation. Mr. Kemini, can you hear us now? If you can unmute your device so that we can hear you, Mr. Kemini, if you can hear me.
Okay, so whether the actions taken by IBAS would stand or not depends on what the court will say in the coming days, because I still believe that the court has a role to play in the interpretation of whether the president was right or wrong, whether there was need in the first place to have suspended a sitting governor and replace him with a retired military general. So even though the matters have not been decided at this point, which is sad because one would have expected that those matters would have been decided as quickly as possible, but I still believe that the court still has a role to play to interpret, and the interpretation of the court will go a long way to decide as to whether the action taken by BAS would stand or not. And now you have heard the gentleman here that has said that even today, things are still being inaugurated. And some of these boards are statutory boards, where you have not less than 4 years for people to run those boards. And the gentleman that came on a state of emergency is already inaugurating boards that are to last for 4 years and even more. I think this is serious bastardization of what democracy, should be. But this has happened already. And what I want to say right now is, Your Excellency, the President of Nigeria, you swore to uphold the provisions of the Constitution. And this calls for the President to suspend the state of emergency, allow Mr. Bass to go back, and then allow Fubara to return to office and then continue with his work. Because we must run a democracy the way it should be run and not this way. The state of emergency has no support whatsoever in the eyes of the law. The one that goes to the extent of suspending a sitting governor has no support of the Constitution of Nigeria. And if we are running a democracy, we must abide by the provisions of the Constitution, and therefore the declaration was not necessary in the first place, was not supported by the Constitution. And having been done, this having taken place already, I think at this point, what Nigerian citizens, not only the people of Rivers State, what the people of this country are expecting the president to do now is, respectfully, Your Excellency, return Rivers State to democracy, because they deserve to have democracy the same way other states of the Federation also have democracy.
Okay. Anyway, let's begin to custom. Mr. Savior, let's talk about, because when you look at all the actions that have been taken, I've been literally repeating this every other day. Boards being formed, literally agencies, all of them literally remanded by new sets of people appointed by him, local governments, council bosses, now loyal to his political godfather, who we must say brought him into power, at least from the political conversation. We cannot deny the role Nyesom Wike played in bringing him to power. Assembly loyal to Nyesom Wike. The guy looks like he's, the gentleman looks like he's tactically immobilized politically. So he's been seen as an incoming lame duck by the political watchers. But he still has to be governor. How do you think he's going to toe the path of peace so that whatever is being gained now is not going to, we're not going to return to the trenches?
That's where the challenge lies, because we sincerely want to wonder what the governor is coming to do. It becomes a serious challenge. I must say this is the highest mocking or insult on an existing or the incumbent governor. Without being economical to the truth, I want to sincerely say that this is seriously unfair and unjust situation that we face right now, because all the board has been inaugurated, and they still going ahead to still inaugurate more board without even giving account of stewardship, without telling Rivers people how you've been able to protect the resources in Rivers State. All we are seeing Mr. Ibas doing is that he's going into some other programs, activities that can also help him to loot Rivers State resources. It's so unfortunate that this is where we find ourselves. Now, the governor is to be reinstated tomorrow. We are hearing so many rumors, so many things that to us is actually unjustly, because I don't see how people should be planning to celebrate the democracy that will be returned to Rivers State as if we are in a military regime. We weren't in a military regime that you can say that we are celebrating the return of democracy. It's actually a situation that faced us alone here in Rivers State. As at when other states were celebrating Democracy Day, Rivers State was actually celebrating emergency rule. I must say that within the period of these 6 months, since 18 March 2025, till date that the governor was suspended, the deputy governor was suspended.
Okay.
The State House of Assembly were suspended. As we speak today,
all right, Mr. Savior.
nothing is going on.
Yes, Mr. Savior. I think your point is noted. My apologies, so that I can get Mr. Kemini on his last words because of time. Mr. Kemini, so if we go back, now we want to look forward. I'm sure you want to make comments about how to sustain the peace on one hand, but I'm just tempted to ask, what option did the president have in the eyes of the law?
Well, the option the president has in the eyes of the law is for him not to extend the state of emergency. You can see the outcry that has trailed the state of emergency in the last 6 months. Though the law, the Constitution allows the president to extend the state of emergency for another 6 months or so on. But at this point, there is no need extending the state of emergency because the emergency that leads to the suspension of the governor in the first place is not within the contemplation of the Constitution. So we call on the president, with due respect to his office, to reinstate Governor Fubara. That's the elected governor of Rivers State. Whatever political disagreement is between a political godfather and a political godson should not lead to the extent of affecting leadership, democratic leadership in Rivers State. Remember that something happened in Lagos State not long ago when the House of Assembly in Lagos and some persons were having disagreements. The president waded in. And then today, Lagos is very peaceful. The House of Assembly is peaceful. No state of emergency was declared. We expect the same thing to happen in Lagos, in Rivers State. Let Rivers State have democracy the way every other state of the Federation has. So what Nigerian citizens pray from the president, require from the president as of today is, Your Excellency, please come tomorrow or even today, announce the suspension of the state of emergency in Rivers State. Let the man that was elected by the Rivers people return to the Rivers State government house and continue the work of the office of governor. And for Fubara, I would tell him, when you go back, sir, do not be vindictive on anybody. Work with everybody. You have a mandate, and yours is to ensure that you see through the mandates that your people gave you. It's very difficult to swim in an environment that everybody seems hostile. Nobody seems to be your man. But with leadership skills deployed by you as governor, I'm sure you'll still be able to weather the storms and be able to offer leadership, to your people, which is why you were elected by your people to serve as governor of that state.
Ekeminudim, thank you so much for your points. Quite apt. Legal practitioner Ekeminudim joining us virtually, as well as Mr. Oscar Savior, Executive Director, South South Youth Initiative, and a public affairs analyst who gave his very insightful thoughts as well. Gentlemen, I appreciate you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Ozon. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.